Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Into the Storm, sponsored by VIP Mortgage and Bison Ventures, where we do informed mortgage lending. First of all, I want to thank my nephew over here, Trey, who does the podcast engineering, and my sister, who is the podcast producer, and she is one of our business development directors here at Bison Ventures, and she does marketing for us and all kinds of great things. So thanks for helping us every week with this, guys. And obviously, we do have a new sign over here. I wish we could show it to everybody, but we're going to put it right here, and it's going to be probably too heavy for anybody else to put anything else up. So that's going to be a problem. But that's not really part of today.
We'll figure it out.
We paid a lot of money for it. That was really nice. Right, Bob?
It looks great. It looks great.
Yeah.
So today we have a special guest from Engel Völkers, and has a long history in the real estate market here in Phoenix, or the whole Maricopa County. We have Bob Nathan, who is a manager of the North Scottsdale office.
Correct.
But former broker for the last 2.5 years at Engle Volkers, and then shifted gears over to just doing the managing role. Why did you do that, by the way?
Well, to correct you a little bit,
okay.
To take it back, we had a new licensed partner here almost 3 years ago. Paul Benson out of Park City came in and took over the franchise. Part of that transition was me to be his designated broker.
Okay.
So I was the designated broker as well as selling and managing and doing what brokers do. As our company's been growing so quickly lately, we made a corporate decision that we would be better suited to have one person as the designated broker and managing the agents and the support staff. I could get back to what I like to do the best is sell real estate.
Right.
Is the DB a non-producing broker?
He is a non-producing broker. He can do a couple of his own private deals, but his focus is recruiting, managing, brokering, and, as I say, keeping the monkeys in the cage.
Right. And how many offices do you guys have locally?
We have 3. We have one down at the waterfront, and then we have 2 of them at the D.C. Ranch area.
Gotcha. And where's Engle Volkers out of?
We are Hamburg, Germany based, but New York for the North Americas.
Gotcha. Okay. So, like I said before, you have a long history in this space, so to speak. You've been in the Valley for how many years?
Since 1974,
okay.
so whatever that is.
1974. Well,
I know.
That'd be 48 years.
That's the year Ryan was born.
Because that's the year I was born. That's the only reason I could do that math.
I get that a lot.
So where are you originally from?
Chicago.
Okay. Chicago, and you came out here to go to school?
Went to ASU. My brother Nate was already here. He was, a junior when I showed up, and the rest is history.
Right. So I'd be remiss to not talk about Nate just for a second, too, because for people who know anything or seen signs around this valley for years, especially mostly in the dirt, Nathan and Associates, right?
Correct. That is correct.
So you started working with him, and he sells dirt. It's lots and lots and lots of dirt. More dirt than anybody else sells.
Yeah, the quick Cliff Notes version is, in 1979, I got my license. He transitioned from Tom Fannin Realty, which for the old folks, it was here, turned into Prudential. I moved into his spot at Prudential. He moved on to the commercial division. In 1980, he started his own firm, and I went with him. So I was the post hole digger, the receptionist, the research guy, just about everything that we needed to do when we were competing in 1980. So I was 24 years old. He was 26.
Wow.
And we were fighting up against the big boys back then, the CB, Grubb and Ellis. And
right.
So it was a, I won't say slow process, but it was arduous.
It's crazy to think that there was a 24-year-old and a 26-year-old doing that, because Trey's 25. Like having like 2 Treys out there going and competing for like that type of work.
Yeah, it's
mind-boggling. You have to throw in the Nate factor. My brother is a rare beast. He is driven. He is, he had a long history of performing and not competing. So, and in the rock and roll days back in the 80s and 90s, he didn't compete with his home builders or developers. He was a pure broker. And that wasn't true with a lot of the other people that were in the business at the time. He also focused on the national home builders. So that his relationships now 43 years this year. has just nurtured itself with the respect and admiration from them being truly the best expert in land in the valley.
So you were going to say something?
Yeah. How or at what point did Greg Vogel come into the mix?
I can't remember when Greg came in to be a competitor. So I would be making it up if I actually gave you a year, and I'm not going to do that. But, there were a number of people in the 80s and 90s that were nipping at our heels. They still are in many regards, but Nate is kind of a legend.
He is a legend.
Yeah.
Totally.
I have two stories, and then we'll move on. This is a really good one, though, because I was with a buddy that works at a competitor, and we were talking about it one day, and he said that he literally went to one of the farmers that had owned a bunch of land and said, listen, Nate has enough money. Can you give us a deal, please? Like, come on, the guy has everything. And I was like, did you really say that? He goes, I literally really said that. And the guy said, no, we're going with Nate.
Well, the funny part, you fast track back to 1980 when we were out. I would be the researcher, so I'm driving on 67th, 75th, 83rd Avenues down in Lower Buckeye and picking up signs, and we would approach the people in the same way, and they'd say, we'd like to list your land, and they say, well, are you CB or Grubb and Ellis? And we'd go, no. And they'd go, okay, have a good day.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you guys do it? Was it just this huge map and you guys would just figure out like little spots where you needed to go, or just?
Well, Nate was one of the first in town to actually put up a war room. So he had Gary Todd, who was the photographer back there, and Landis Ariel, create a war room that was twice the size of this, and we had the entire valley circulated on it. And we would have to go to the microfiche because back in the 80s we didn't have computers, and those things smelled bad, and that had this little hum, and half the time I'd fall asleep because you're going.
It's like white noise.
Oh God, it was just absolutely horrible. And then we would transfer the information that we got up onto the aerials with yellow sticky tape and X-Acto knives.
Wow.
And then print in the name on our Croy lettering machine.
Jeez. So tedious work. But it worked.
It worked.
It worked. That's actually really cool. Is there any pictures of that? Like,
I'm sure we have.
Will you send a couple to me?
That would be
'Cause
super cool.
I'll post about that.
The war room actually still exists.
Oh, really?
It exists. It's his conference room, but I can't tell you that they actually
right.
cut and
it's a little different nowadays.
It's a little different.
So did it ever get to a point when where you just like, I want to do my own thing?
No.
You were just, okay, what was the reason where you decided to leave?
It was an evolution. I had the ability to do whatever Nate didn't want to do. So I was selling apartment buildings. I was doing shopping centers. I was doing anything that I could do. He'd say, here you go, bro, run with it. One of the evolution was we had the listing on DC Ranch from the Marley Corrigan family, the original landowners. And we were taking out to the market to sell. What happened was DMB and Marley Corrigan family got together and decided to create a joint venture as opposed to do a sale, where DMB would do the infrastructure, Marley Corrigans would throw in the land, and it obviously worked out pretty well. But we're sitting in a meeting one day, and Nate goes to Drew, I believe it was, or maybe Jim Hazelton, I can't remember. And they said, Nate goes, I think really what you need to do is you need to create your own real estate company. You need to sell every custom lot in that community because there's so much money there. You shouldn't let it go. And they said, that's a great idea. Who should we hire? And Nate goes, Bobby will do it.
And you're like,
and I'm like,
my Bobby.
I guess I'm transitioning back into the residential side. Probably was the best thing that ever happened to me in my career, just because, first of all, the partners were so phenomenal. Nate and I were 45% owners in DMB Realty from 96 or 97 when we started selling till 2001. DMB was transitioning into California and Park City, and they wanted to control their destiny from the DMB Realty standpoint. I stayed on as their broker till 04. But it was a phenomenal transition because we were selling custom home sites, we were doing custom builds. The depth of knowledge that I learned on the construction side was phenomenal. The land planning, we just had the best players in the world walking the golf courses at Silverleaf with Tom Weisskopf and watching him visualize how this hole is going to bend, and was just an incredible education. So that's
You
how
have like the brains of all aspects of the development side of things at this point.
there's very little that I haven't done.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of commercial. I still do it. Dirt to me is, I'm like the gladiator guy who bends over and picks up the dirt and smells it and eats it. That's still my biggest passion, to help people build custom homes. But yeah, I'm blessed from a residential standpoint. I think there's very few people, not to pat myself on the back,
Right.
that have the depth of knowledge in all of the business that I do.
So were you guys? What was actually out there? It was just a mountain, right? There wasn't anything going on out there, right?
Well, you had Pinnacle Peak Country Club was already there. Desert Highlands was already there. Pima
that's
Road
right.
was a 2-lane road. The 101 freeway was just a vision. Probably our biggest stumbling block is people would come out there and go, "God, this is far," and now Pinnacle Peak and Scottsdale Road are truly the geometric center of Scottsdale.
Right.
And because you go all the way to Desert Mountain,
Right.
it is the geometric dead-on middle.
That's crazy.
So Scottsdale's really long north and south, but
but
where
narrow.
does it go from east to west? Where does that start and stop?
And I'll use streets on the east side. It will go to probably 120th
Okay.
Street. It goes out the Shea Corridor until you get to past the Mayo Clinic at 136th. And on Scottsdale Road is probably the western boundary, but
Okay.
there's
there's
Scottsdale
yeah.
addresses in
Right.
Phoenix,
Right.
and so for Kierland's technically, I believe in
it's Phoenix. Yeah.
but it's a Scottsdale address.
Right. That's a weird one because I know 85254 can go. I think it goes all the way to 56th Street, but it's considered Scottsdale or it's considered Phoenix. But is that zip code both? It can't be.
Yeah, zip codes don't
sure.
necessarily correlate with
Oh, I
municipalities.
guess it could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
Scottsdale goes from the end of Desert Mountain basically down to McKellips.
Okay. So what does the marketplace and all that commercial stuff down there, was that all part of the process too? Did you guys help develop?
Well, the property was 8,300 acres, and there were basically three commercial centers that they had developed. One was Market Street, which is there right now. The other is the Legacy and Pima Road Shopping Center. And then the other was where the Village Health Club is.
Okay.
And there's some, not really commercial, but there is office space there.
Gotcha. So we talked about this a little bit before we started, but he's not an economist, everybody, technically, but kinda. So like we said, your greatest strength is all the stuff you do know about just the whole entire real estate market and everything that's happening at every aspect of it. Like you were talking about. So why don't you just get into a little bit of what you do every day? Because that's very interesting.
Well, first I take my chocolate lab for a 4-mile walk or
Right.
hike and get that done. And it's, to be an expert, you really have to study the markets, and that's just not the houses. It's the government, it's the economy, it's the in-migration, it's the tax structure, it's the job growth. All those things really come into play. Nate did teach me early on to be a very positive approach and be a positive person, regardless of the cycle, because you can make a cycle good if you're paying attention. So I try and study the morning market, and I'll do that by looking at it at layers. The first thing I do is look at the inventory of available homes and coming soon. That is a number that has gone from 3,500 back in February and March up to 22,000 in our present day market. And so most people are just stopping in their tracks and panicking because there's all this inventory. Our normal market is 25 to 30,000 houses on the market. Our normal market is 90 to 120 days on the market. It's not what we've lived the last 3 years. So once you look at that number of available, then you step back and say, okay, what's happening in the market right now? Then you look at what's under contract or pending. And right now that number is hovering right around 7,000 houses are under contract. So if you look at that number, that means we only have a 3-month inventory. If you go one step further and look what's sold in the last 60 days, not 6 months, because that's going to be a faulty number. You look in the last 60 days, and we have sold close to 13,000 houses in the last 60 days. That's a really strong market. In-migration is 190 people a day. tax structure here is exceptionally low. We have the chip manufacturers. We got Mayo Clinic and the Arizona State University joining together to create, and by the Mayo Clinic hospitals, one of the leading centers for technological medical research.
Joining Mayo?
I did not know that.
They have joined forces to create a campus.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that
just
either.
on Mayo Boulevard between 56th and, not quite Scottsdale Road. So
okay.
the other way.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
They've purchased the land, and it's going to be something remarkable.
So similar to like what U of A did with Banner.
Yes, but I think it's more, and I'm not an expert at this part, but it's more about research and development of genome and those types of things.
Okay.
Gotcha. So when you say people shouldn't, you didn't say people shouldn't panic, but right now people are panicking. I think somewhat, or people were just staying on the fence. The buyers aren't really buying and the sellers aren't really selling, and mainly because everybody thinks that the housing market's going to go down and they can get a better deal, or rates are going to go down. And again, we don't really know what's happening, but 7.1% is the 50-year average for an interest rate right now for mortgage, and we're hovering right around that same spot. So that's fairly normal. We're not in a crisis right now. And like you said, the inventory is low, considering.
Right.
So what are you saying to your agents and the people that you're working with and buyers and sellers? Because you said you got a lot of people on the fence as well.
We're kind of at a perfect storm, and it's if we as real estate agents manage our clients and manage expectations, we're telling our sellers right now, look, we're not getting multiple offers. We can't throw it out there and see at a very high number and see what we get. It's just not happening unless it's an exceptional home. The one-off. And then we're talking to our buyers and saying there's never a perfect time to buy. The prices are coming down, but not significantly. They're leveling off more than coming down. Mm-hmm. And we're telling them, marry the house and date the rate.
Right.
It's got to be buy the house now because interest rates will come down. I can't tell you if it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. That's not what I do. But I can tell you traditionally they will come down, especially if we have a recession. Historically, the rates come down during that time frame. So we look at that, and if you're managing expectations, we did 3 deals last week. So feel fortunate that we're getting people off the dime and saying if you find the right house, it's a great time to buy.
Were those 3 deals all luxury deals?
No. We did one in Verrado.
Oh, yay.
Okay, we did one.
Who was the cross-selling agent on that? Do you remember?
Yes, Ariana.
Oh, yeah.
And her new protege.
Okay.
So
I know who she is.
Yeah, she's so far exceptional. And
why don't you work with her then, Trish?
Maybe I will. She was after my time. She got in after I was out, but I know who she is.
So she's part of DMB? Or what is the real estate?
No,
Keller Williams actually kind of moved in there.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember the firm she's with. And then we did one on 56th Street in Osborne, and then we'll hopefully at the other get one in DC Ranch today. So
56th Street in Osborne is appealing to me.
Yeah.
I really like that area, especially, because if you go a little west, it gets a little hairy. But right across from Phoenix Country, or from ACC, there's some nice little pockets in there, some good land.
10,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
House is about just under 3,000 square feet. It has been partially remodeled, but it's built in the late 50s, and got to pay attention.
Are a lot of those houses in that area getting redone?
Yes.
Okay, so that's another pocket where people are just fully going in and
Absolutely.
flipping or just remodeling. Yeah, it's a great little area.
So can I interrupt? Yeah. So Verrado, since you brought it up, I didn't. You were phasing out right around the time we launched Verrado. What are your earliest memories since you were out there before we actually opened? What do you remember?
Walking the golf course again prior to construction. We plotted all the custom home sites out there, and we're staking them and trying to put values on them. And things were stupid back in those days.
Oh,
so
I know.
we were, and we put a builder program together out there.
You know, I actually owned one of those.
A custom home site?
Yeah,
I
he
lost
did.
on it.
Yeah.
You're in good company.
I actually foreclosed on it.
Yeah, he was in that first parcel, whatever.
And
to the
then,
left.
again, another attribute to DMB, them designing the town center and building it first and creating the story, making it a reality before it was just a story that we were trying to sell off of. So,
That's, in my opinion, that's really how we sold Verrado.
absolutely.
It wasn't the homes, right? Because you were going to pay 20 to 30% more for a comparable home that you could find in Sundance across I-10, right? But the story, the narrative was just so brilliantly done. And the fact that they did execute exactly like what the master plan called
Absolutely.
for was just amazing.
It was brilliant.
I'll tell you what I loved about it. The trees. The tree-lined streets, the grass in between the sidewalks.
Yep.
And the town, was it the middle school?
Yes.
The big clock on the...
No, that was the Village
that
Health
was the
Club.
village,
That's
okay.
the-
Just that coming into that little area where the Bashes was, or the Safeway. But
Bashes.
that whole area to me, it's just, if you like the whole Pleasantville sort of like feel good, it just was too far.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't live close to anything either, but to me it was just an amazing spot, and we almost bought out there many times, and it did suck. Like when the economy crashed, you know, you went out there, we'd go out to see them. You know, you see so many rentals, and you see grass like
Starting to die off.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like this like beautiful like storybook neighborhood's falling apart. Not anymore. Now
Not anymore.
It's rebounded.
it's rebounded
But
nicely.
But it was tough to watch the shifts that had to take place with the master plan.
Yeah.
Like all that Thomas Road, secondary Main Street was really exciting, and then the resort that was supposed to go in and all that. It was a tough time out there, but it's rebounded nicely, and they've adjusted well. And
I had clients in from Chicago this weekend, and they wanted to experience the West Valley. So we started in,
Why is that?
Estancia?
they didn't know it.
Okay. Just curious. There's just great areas out there.
So we hit all the communities that you would think of out there,
Yeah.
and we're driving around, and they kept saying, no, no. And then we hit Verrado, and it was like, okay.
Right.
And then we went back to Scottsdale.
Yeah, right.
Not-
They bought in Wingate Ranch.
They haven't bought yet, but it was a long day.
Have you sold anything in Victory?
I was very close to it. These people that I sold a model home to around the corner off of Indian School wanted to be in Victory. They wanted golf course lots and mountain views. And I find their model complex a little confusing because it's kind of everybody clustered together.
Where is that?
It's the north side of Verrado.
Remember that like tiger stripe rock that you see it anywhere in Verrado? You just continue up Verrado Way, it basically dead ends, and then it's beautiful up there. That clubhouse is so nice.
A little
Oh,
bit.
is that like the
Like
the
the
tire-
active adult.
Oh, active. Okay.
Yeah, it's called Victory is the brand name for that area.
Gotcha.
But
So what happened? So you left DMV in 2004. Where'd you go?
I started my own company. I started
Okay.
R.H. Nathan and Company. 04 was a good time to have your
Yeah.
own company. Had got that up to about 20 agents at one point in time at the end of 08. So the timing, had just the start of a divorce and the recession and 20 mouths to feed. I called up Jimmy Lyons and said, hey, Jimmy, would you like 20 agents?
Right.
And he said, sure. So we just kind of morphed that company into Russ Lyon, and many of those agents are still with him.
Yeah.
Then I did that, was with Russ Lyon from 09 to 2015, where I joined Engel Völkers, which at that time was owned by Sandra Wilkin.
Oh, okay. So when did Russ Lyon become Russ Lyon Sotheby's?
The history of that was there was an equitable
I remember that.
John Batista started Equitable Realty, and then
Yeah.
he was the one who actually brought the Sotheby's franchise to
Gotcha.
Phoenix. They joined forces with Jimmy Lyon. They separated, and Jimmy took over the entire brand.
Gotcha.
And then
now he owns Launch.
now he owns Launch.
Gotcha.
So did you know Jim Madrid when you were back in your wrestling days? That's our uncle.
I knew the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was OG Scottsdale guy. He was with wrestling, I think, his whole career, basically, right?
I don't know.
Because he got out of pharma and went to real estate. And so most of our childhood, that's what he was doing.
What made you leave there, wrestling, and go over to work with Sandra Wilkin?
Well, I'd been in the top 10 for wrestling for the entire time that I was there. Jimmy and the whole crew over there are wonderful people. I'm a firm believer. I'm not your normal person. I like to be different, and I found myself competing with many of the people in the same firm. Wonderful people, very talented agents, but we all had the same materials. We all had the same shtick. And to me, Engel Völkers was a brighter, brander, more international brand, and just seemed like a bigger fit. And all of a sudden, my brochures and everything else sitting down on the table were a different color and a different production and different delivery.
Well, I think that is my mic okay? There we go. I think that when you see it now, it's very edgy, sort of modernist, like just very minimalist, very good branding. And even though it's a international company, it's a big company, I think that there's a lot of people I've known over the last 5 years or so that have left, to be honest with you, Sotheby's, to go to even to like the smaller boutique brands because of that same exact reason. It's not as chic anymore maybe to be with the big behemoth. But I think it comes down to so much nowadays. Everybody wants to brand themselves, or they want to be, just cool and hip and just something different than just the stuff that you see everywhere. But it also comes down to you don't want to be in the same office competing for the same stuff every time. And it's the same thing with this in this industry, in the mortgage industry. Right. It's like, all of a sudden you might be a preferred lender in an office and you're with two other people, and then that other person now joins your company, and now you're competing with somebody from your own company in the same thing. It becomes a little conflict of interest sometimes, and it's nice to kind of do your own deal. Well,
competition happens no matter where you're going to go. If I'm at one company or another, I'm still competing against the same people. From my perspective, the tools that they're supplying me and the marketing assistance and just the care that they do from the corporate level on down that passes through very quickly is significant. And we are a franchise, so we have a franchise fee. Our splits, you can't run a company on 90-10 splits. You just can't do it.
Right.
So it's finding a blend and finding the right people who believe in the brand, that believe in the tools that we're supplying them. And we've had great success over the last couple of weeks with our new managing broker, designated broker, to bring on some really top-notch people that are embracing what we're selling.
That's awesome. People think that maybe you probably are focusing only on the luxury brand, but you just said obviously you went out to Verrado and you went out to the West Valley. So you are the guy that's always been kind of willing to go anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah. But you kind of live and hang in the DC Ranch area still?
Yes.
Okay. So you have a good handle on that market. Obviously, there's a lot of competition in that space as well. Do you guys play nicely in that sandbox?
You know what? The answer to the question is I play nice with everybody. Yeah. And if I have a fault, it's that I'm too nice. There are a couple of people that we've crossed swords, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But, a lot of those people I've known for 20, 25 years. Yeah. Many of the people that are at Silverleaf Realty, I actually hired.
Right.
Back in 97, 98, 96. Right. And I could still call every one of them a good friend.
Yeah.
And we're collaborative. We try and do cross deals whenever we can. So absolutely.
So on that hand, if you have a deal, then so you get a listing, do you pick up the phone and call your friends basically in that same area? Like, hey, I just got this deal. Do you have a buyer before you even list it?
Not before. No.
Okay.
Having been on the broker side, that
pisses you off.
No, it is what it is, and it happens all the time. Not as much as it did over the last 2 years. But I will let someone know that something's coming.
Okay.
Or just say, hey, heads up, as soon as go live, you'll be the first to know.
Okay. So why is that a problem? Is it just eliminates like broker fees or what?
I don't know. I personally, I don't think it's doing your client any service.
Okay.
If you're representing a seller and you're getting a listing, you want a competitive marketplace to get the highest and best price.
That makes
That's
sense.
true.
Not necessarily a quick deal.
Right. Okay. Jeez, I'm gonna get in trouble for that one. I don't know anybody who does that.
No.
Just
No. Whenever you see a 1 day on the market, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I have another question. It's not Verrado specific, it's more DMB, but you mentioned the builder program that you help establish. How did you guys vet those custom builders? And, you know, I mean, obviously Salcedo is still a big presence in DC Ranch and Silverleaf. They did the Sunset Magazine house out in Verrado, and like how did you find them, and how did you sell them on a bunch of dirt?
Yeah. There's a couple of really so let's start at the production level first. So Camelot, Monterey, at that time it was Edmonds, Columbia Communities. They actually had a beauty contest where DMB required that if they wanted to buy the dirt, they had to present a package of the product they would build to the specifications that DMB would do. So at that level, just from the production standpoint, it was a significant process. And those builders were the ones that decided to jump in and do what we asked. From the custom standpoint, back then it really was more a function about relationships. I won't remember all of them, but we had Tom Fisher. We obviously had Salcedo. We had Construction Zone because they were a custom, more of a modern type. We had Nance Construction. We had Gary Geets. I mean, some of the bigger names that were in town.
Argue Custom Homes was out there, weren't they?
He was not a
signature
preferred
builder. Okay.
builder. And early on, you had to use one of our builders. It was not a question of if, it's which one will you use, because we were trying to control the quality of the construction and the architecture so the vision would be built as it was.
The design review process, you really had, I mean, even if you had the ability to go outside that signature builder, it's almost impossible to get through there if you don't have an architect who gets it.
Absolutely.
Thank God we could never get through the design review.
Yeah. Then you would have really
yeah,
had
because
bad.
we've been really screwed.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get through it. It was like so many things, and we're always in. So God,
It's been-
so
it
we
was
only
the-
lost money on the dirt.
That was the biggest criticism we got out there, but, you know, the integrity of the architecture was just a non-negotiable.
Yeah, and if you look at the success of the neighborhoods now, and I just drove a couple of new agents around today saying, you know, here's 1997, 98, 99. Let me take you to 2015 to now, and it's a wow.
Yeah.
It's Dan
Evolution,
Dan
yeah.
Madison was another one of the builders. They'll keep falling in.
Who had that really big, like tan colored house? One of the very first, was that Salcedo? One of the very first houses.
Salcedo had the first house.
Okay.
It was the Sunset Magazine house adjacent to the golf club.
It's
to
not
the
that
left.
one though.
That would be Argue.
I thought that was
Custom
Argue.
Homes, lot 310.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
sold it twice.
I had dinner with Tony Salcedo just the other night at a friend's birthday party, and we were laughing. I said, Tony, do you remember the first time I drove you through the gates of DC Ranch? And you looked at me, and I'll clean up what he said. But he said, Nathan, how the hell are you going to expect me to sell $2 and $3 million houses when I have to drive through this crap? Now, the crap was Toll Brothers and Monterey. And now, fast forward 27 years, and
Right.
he's like, oh, okay.
Never mind.
So is he still super involved, or is
No.
Tony? Okay.
No, Anthony
Anthony's-
and Anthony's running the show, and God,
He's doing a great job.
he's killing it.
Yeah.
They're such fine human beings too.
Yeah, everybody seems to love that family.
Well, they're just good people.
Yeah.
They do what they say they're going to do. They follow up. Their workmanship's incredible. So,
What is the most expensive house going out there nowadays? Not in the Silverleaf area, but like just in DC Ranch.
there was a 9,000 square foot house that my client just lost out on. Was going to go for 11,200,
Wow.
which is almost $1,300 a foot.
Wow.
New construction, great lot, good build. I just wish I had sold it.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Did you ever do any deals up in Forest Highlands?
Well, yes, the answer is when DMB got involved with Forest Highlands, I was still the designated broker.
Oh, that's right.
And I managed the sales office for all those lot sales, and had a house up there.
So you were Lynn Ashton's boss for a while.
I was. Absolutely.
So we're gonna get Lynn on the show.
One of these days.
One of these days.
One of these days. So what was there like ever? I know that there had to have been obviously, but during the 08, 09, 10 times, like what was that like for you?
I will tell you, well, it was challenging for many reasons. First of all, I was getting a divorce in those times. Obviously, the economy was a challenge. I still had solid years, but they were different. They're different because of the short sales. The emotion of the residential process is emotional to begin with, but when you're losing your house and you're getting divorced and the bank is going to make you pay extra, I mean, it's not a good feeling. So even regardless of what I was going through personally, professionally, I'm those that wear my heart on my sleeve. So I was absorbing everybody else's agony and transitions and getting them through the process. But I've been very, very blessed in this business to be continually successful and have to change directions many times. But that's just 43 years in the same business.
Yeah. I mean, it's still remarkable, though, because you would think even, after 43 years, you'd have, even though you did go through some stuff, people tend to have like a really bad season,
Well, and you and I kind of talked about this a little bit off, and I've had transitions where I have lost some market share in my core business that I've been able to make up for in other locations. Still would like to get a percentage of that stuff back, and that's kind of my game plan for 23.
Nice. So, what are you telling your people right now that are working for you? Like people it's just not as easy as a lot of people think it should be or would be. From like a coaching standpoint, I mean, you're a positive guy, so obviously you have to try to bring that out in other people.
We are a company that really doesn't bring on a lot of new agents.
Yeah.
We have a handful right now that I think appreciate the access to Chris Perez, the new broker, Jim Brewski, the other manager down south, and myself to help them pull them up. And Jim is a phenomenal human being and a true sportsman. He's got his World Series ring and that, so he's a real good conduit for positive attitude and how to get someone back on track. So those younger ones, we're trying to make sure that they are doing the right things in front of the right people, but also keeping a kind of a day job. Because they need income. So we have a few of them that are working in the hospitality industry to support themselves. But those are the ones that are really working the hardest to get it done because they want to get it done. We have a lot of more seasoned agents.
I know what you meant.
I'm the only old one in the group. But the seasoned agents that have been through these cycles, that have learned to save their money, hopefully, and are working through it just like the rest of us, because it'll change.
Yeah. One more question about a long time ago. So I shouldn't say a long time ago because it really wasn't long ago, but have you ever transitioned from like when you're doing your research, like what do you do? This is such a bad way of saying this. So do you still read the newspaper? Do you go on the internet? How do you get your research like from a daily basis?
In all honesty, I am a kind of a news junkie.
Yeah.
And I'm a junkie in the sense that I want to hear both sides. So I listen to both of the sides of the nightly news or the morning news, whatever you want to call it. The Phoenix Business Journal is probably my biggest go-to for the local pulse. I think they do a phenomenal job on all the different aspects, not only real estate, not only business, but everything else in between. The internet, if I want to hear the weather, I'll go to the internet.
Okay. The reason why I was asking that is I heard this today about someone bring up they read the Wall Street Journal still. Literally delivered to their house still.
I have it digitally.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious if you still got the...
and the New Yorker.
Yeah.
So, I don't spend as much time as I would like to on those, but they're definitely resources that.
I personally feel like it's just an easier way to gather information than it is digging stuff up on the internet. It's just too
100%.
much information.
It's like it's consolidated, right?
It's like I've finally just got a membership to MBS Highway because I was like going on Mortgage Daily News and all this stuff, and I was like, I just need this stuff like delivered to my email. I can open it up and I can see a video of Barry Habib telling me exactly what's going on, and then I can read all the stuff below it. And it's good. It's worth the money that I spend every month on it.
There's a guy out there, Terry McDonald's, who's been, I don't know if you know Terry, but he's been writing his paper for, I don't even know if
I think he was partners with Barry Habib at one point, and then Barry left and started MBS Highway.
So, and he would, it was just perfect for me. It was 3 or 4 sentences.
Yeah.
Wrap it up in a nutshell, and you were done.
Yeah, absolutely. Trish?
You kind of covered my next questions. What advice would you give a new agent? Or if that's, since you kind of covered that, what do you think new agents should have in order to be successful? Like when the market does turn, what are those qualities, those traits, that whatever that you hope they have?
They have to have thick skins. They have to have the ability to do research, do the hard things. I have a 20-year-old. Oh, she'll be 20 next month, 21. She's a newbie. She decided to do door hangers, handwritten letters to her specific neighborhood, which is 45 houses. And she got 3 responses and closed one $2.4 million deal in that neighborhood. And it's just thinking outside the box, focusing. Don't think on the grand scale. Think on what you know, what you can be an expert on. And she lives in the neighborhood. So it's just, and then it's persistence. I mean, I think I told you the story there. My brother would send me out and he said, okay, your job is to call the Herberger family every month. Call the Herberger family. And I would call Gary, the son. Now, Bob was still alive at the time. And I'd call him once a month and I'd say, hi, Gary, how you doing? I'm great. How's your tennis game? Good. My knees are getting, So it was the same conversation, but I was in front of him. And I said, do you have anything to sell? No, not right now. Not right now. 2 years later, he comes and says, you know what? Why don't you and your brother come in and meet with my dad? And we did. And they gave us a listing. And if I remember correctly, it was at 64th Street in Thunderbird. It was an 80-acre parcel. We had a price of $100,000 an acre, and we sold it in 3 days. And they were like,
could it be Scottsdale Road and Shea?
Yeah.
Because I know they own that whole center over there.
But that relationship then led into Nate and I Nate was the listing agent on the Kierland. So we sold all the residential at Kierland. And it just filtered into so many opportunities because it was persistence.
Yeah.
It was positive. And, I knew every Tuesday of the month, first Tuesday, Gary knew I was going to call.
Yeah.
So.
And how old were you at that point?
Probably 27, 28-ish.
And, well, you said this was a son, not Mr.
No.
Well, the son is.
Well, Gary
he's passed away, right?
He passed away.
But he would be in his 70s, right?
Oh, no. Well, yeah, maybe late 70s.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. So the fact that he was not super old, right? Is
He's
that why?
Peer.
Yeah, it's like how do you think you even got somebody like that to talk to you in the first place?
Well, I think part of it was my persistence. Part of it was Nate's business was growing exponentially.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden there was validity to what they might allow us to do.
But before
you were peers, almost at that point.
Yeah.
So, but before the business was taking off, I mean, how does a 24 and a 26-year-old
stones? Let's do it.
To be honest with you, I was teaching tennis at John Gardner's Tennis Ranch from 12 till noon. I was working with my brother from 12:30 till 5, and then I was bartending at Willie and Guillermo's at night. So that's
how you survived.
That's how I survived.
Okay. Grinding,
doing what you got to do.
What you got to do.
Yeah.
I've told this story many times, but it's not when I got in this business, I was 38, and I was valeting cars at night at private houses in PV for American Valet, and I would see people that I knew at the parties.
Yeah.
And I was valeting their cars, going like, this is fucking embarrassing. But I never got any heat ever. I think I earned more respect, honestly.
Yeah.
And it happened 2 different times. And I remember leaving going like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. And I was also going through a divorce at that time. So I was like, crumbling in every angle of my life, just going like, what am I doing? But I love that part of my story. Like at this point, I'm like, dude, because when other people are bitching and like, dude, what am I going to do? I was like, go work and go bartend. I don't know, go valet cars. It's the easiest job ever. And you get in shape and you make good money and you can do it at night and you can work all day.
Yep.
So, work hard.
I work hard.
Yep.
Stay focused.
Yeah, exactly.
Be positive. When someone asks you how's the market, you go, unbelievable.
That's right. Did you hear that? I think we're going to end on that. Yeah. So everybody out there, listen to that. How's the market doing?
Unbelievable.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, one thing you didn't talk about that is important is our budding relationship with Engel Völkers.
Well, that's your budding relationship.
Well,
it's Liz's budding relationship.
we're fortunate to have you guys as a part of the equation. It's a critical part, and Liz is just off the charts. She's my go-to right now for lending. Appreciate all the time and effort she puts into making us better, working with the younger agents.
Yeah.
Because it is a key part of the puzzle for us, and I'm happy to be part of a new relationship with you guys because we're gonna be unbelievable.
That's right. No, we appreciate it too, and Liz is exceptional. She's probably the best in the business at what she does. So we're very, very fortunate to have her because she presents herself in a really
the most polished.
Yeah, very polished manner. So she fits very, very well with the Engel Völkers sort of brand, and my sister over here, Trisha, she does it with the brokery, same sort of deal, and they have different things that they do. And I love that part actually of our business, that we have the opportunity to have like these accounts with our friends. And that was something real big with Stuart and I when we were building the business before we became the Bison Ventures, but when we were just our team, just finding the people that you get along with and that you want to work with, because you get to a point where everybody wants the handout, and you don't really necessarily have a great relationship with people. And I think once you get successful enough, you can kind of pick and choose who you want to work together with, because it's partnership at that point, right?
Well, and reciprocity doesn't always mean monetary compensation. It
Right.
means creating a relationship where I know my reciprocity is knowing that Liz is going to do her job perfectly and attentive to my clients' needs.
Yeah.
And that's how I get reimbursed, is because
Exactly.
my clients will appreciate that as being a professional. And same with the title companies, and same with whoever else is on the peripheral of what we do.
I think that the monetary part is okay. I just think that I think that's part of the deal, because like you said, the reciprocity comes in different fashions. It's the ones that they don't want to date before you get married. They're like, hey, we just met. How's it going? Cool, man. Well,
will you sponsor this?
Will you do and we're like, we don't even know each other. We haven't even worked together. We don't even know if you're good for us or we're good for you. So getting back to my point, we have relationships with our friends, with great people that feel the same way you feel, and we're very fortunate of that. So thank God that we have good people to handle these accounts, and we're lucky in that fashion. So again, thank you a lot. Thank you a lot. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Again, Bob Nathan with Engel Völkers. Thank you, Trisha. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you, Trisha.
You're welcome, Bob.
And everybody out there, remember, we are on all the social media platforms as Into the Storm. We are on YouTube, and we do film this with high quality video because Trey is he's a very, 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 very good video guy.
Trey, can you airbrush some hair on top of my head? Just maybe a little bit.
He can, actually. He'll put hats on both of us. But we want people to go onto YouTube and watch these videos, because they're done well, and we need to grow our subscriptions. So like and subscribe, share them with your friends, and
Bob, we
help
need to
us
push
out.
this out to all the EV agents.
Yeah.
Okay, I have Liz remind me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do it at the next.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So with that being said, thank you for everybody out there, and we appreciate it. And watch Into the Storm. Thanks.